A trip to Vung Tau may sound ordinary, but for a working-class family like ours, it was a special reward made possible by many days of work, overtime, and careful saving. A few months before the trip, my wife and I started a small summer vacation fund for our daughter. We stopped buying drinks outside as often, ate at restaurants less frequently, and postponed purchasing anything we did not truly need. I simply wanted to take my wife and daughter to Vung Tau, let my daughter see the sea, play in the sand, swim in the cool water, and create happy memories with her parents. The day before our departure, my wife and daughter began the very lively task of choosing clothes. My daughter wanted to bring almost her entire wardrobe, because every outfit looked beautiful, and every item seemed necessary to her. However, our little suitcase had limited space, so my wife helped her choose everything again. A few comfortable outfits, swimsuits, sandals, hats, sunscreen, and personal items nearly filled the suitcase. My daughter kept running around and asking when we would leave. That night, she was so excited that she could hardly fall asleep. The next morning, my wife and I woke up early to check the doors, tickets, and luggage. Adults always have many things to remember before a trip, while children care about only one question. Dad, when will we see the sea? We chose to travel by coach because it suited our family's budget. A slightly longer journey was not a problem if the money we saved could be used for accommodation, meals, and enjoyable experiences for our daughter in Vung Tau. At the station, I bought a few hot steamed buns for the family to eat before boarding. They were simple, easy to carry, filling, and affordable. On the way to the station, my daughter was still wide awake, watching the scenery through the window and asking question after question. A short while later, the most excited traveler in our family was sleeping soundly on her mother's shoulder. She had probably been too excited to sleep properly the night before. Traveling on a budget does not mean letting my wife and daughter go hungry or making everyone uncomfortable. It means choosing suitable options and avoiding unnecessary waste. The station was crowded because it was the summer holiday season. I pulled the suitcase while my wife held our daughter's hand and repeatedly reminded her to stay close. With such an energetic little traveler, a few seconds of distraction could be enough to lose sight of her. When the coach arrived, my daughter stared at it as if it were something extraordinary. To adults, it was only a long-distance bus. To my daughter, it was the vehicle taking our family to the sea and beginning a new adventure. I loaded our luggage onto the coach, and then the three of us found our seats. My daughter quickly chose the window seat so she could watch everything outside. As soon as the coach started moving, she asked how far the sea was. My wife and I could only laugh and tell her to be patient for a little longer. The familiar city slowly disappeared behind us. Roads, trees, and fields kept changing outside the window. We had not reached Vung Tau yet, but our vacation had already begun from the moment the three of us sat together on the coach. After several hours, the coach stopped at a roadside rest station. We walked around to stretch our legs, used the restroom, and looked for a little more food. There were many tempting dishes, and everything looked worth trying. However, we still had a long journey ahead, so my wife and I chose only a few simple and affordable items.
Nói chung là tạm người dân ở đây thì cũng đầy đủ đồ ăn.
My daughter stood in front of the hot food counter and could not look away. In the end, I bought a portion just large enough for the family to share. When traveling with a young child, it is always useful to carry a few snacks. My daughter can finish a meal and then say she is hungry again only a short while later. After eating, we quickly returned to the coach. I checked our luggage, tickets, and seats one more time. When a family travels with a child and several bags, it is easy to forget something. Buying a replacement during the trip would cost both time and extra money. The coach continued through unfamiliar roads and changing scenery. My daughter watched through the window and repeatedly asked how much longer it would take. Every time I said, "We are almost there," she became happy for a few minutes. Then she asked the same question all over again. After a long journey, our family finally arrived in Vung Tau. My wife and I were a little tired, but the moment our daughter heard that we had reached the seaside city, she immediately became energetic again. She happily helped pull the suitcase and looked curiously at everything around her. Our first task was to find an affordable local restaurant and regain some energy. We ordered familiar dishes that were easy for our daughter to eat and just enough for everyone. Ordering too much could leave food unfinished and waste money. My wife and I agreed to finish everything on the table before ordering anything else. Our first meal in Vung Tau was simple but cheerful. My daughter was happy just to eat her favorite food and know that we would soon reach our accommodation. Watching her eat well made me forget the tiredness of the journey. After the meal, I gathered the luggage and called a vehicle to take us to our accommodation. I had to choose carefully, so there would be enough room for my wife, my daughter, and all our luggage without paying too much. Our small suitcases carried clothes, personal belongings, and all the excitement we had brought with us. The accommodation was not luxurious, but it was clean, comfortable, and surrounded by greenery.
An ơi, nắm tay.
As soon as we arrived, my daughter looked around curiously while my wife and I completed the check-in process and checked our luggage. The room was simple, but spacious enough for our family. There was a comfortable place to sleep, a clean bathroom, and enough space for everyone to relax. For us, that was already more than enough. After the long coach ride, we rested for a while. My daughter said she was not sleepy, but only a few minutes later, she was sleeping peacefully. Watching her sleep made me feel that all the months of saving and preparing had been worthwhile. In the afternoon, when everyone felt refreshed, we began the activity my daughter had been waiting for most. It was time to go swimming. As soon as she saw the pool, she became incredibly excited and urged my wife and me to hurry. She laughed and played non-stop in the cool water. She did not need expensive games or a luxurious amusement park. A swimming pool, her parents nearby, and plenty of laughter were enough to create a wonderful afternoon. My wife and I still had to keep a close eye on her. One of us stayed near the pool while the other prepared towels and dry clothes. A vacation with a young child is not always completely relaxing for parents. After swimming, we returned to the room to rest and prepare for dinner. I found an affordable restaurant with several dishes that our family could share. We ordered food that was easy for our daughter to eat, and a small amount of seafood so everyone could taste the flavors of the seaside city. There was no need to order too much. A little taste of each dish was enough to make the meal enjoyable. Dinner that evening was simple but full of laughter. My wife and I ate, talked, and shared the funniest moments of the day. For a working-class family like ours, having a relaxed meal together without rushing back to work was already a great happiness. After dinner, I took my wife and daughter to explore Vung Tau at night. The streets were bright, lively, and filled with cool sea air. My daughter looked around excitedly and found something new to ask about every few steps. There were lights, music, crowds, and street performances. Although she had been playing all day, she still had enough energy to move to the music. When we returned to the room, my wife and I helped our daughter bathe, brush her teeth, and change into clean clothes. After running and playing all day, she fell asleep almost as soon as her head touched the pillow. The next morning, our family woke up quite early. From the balcony, Vung Tau looked spacious, peaceful, and refreshing. It was one of the rare moments when I could temporarily forget long work shifts, electricity bills, rent, and monthly expenses. All I needed to do that morning was prepare our belongings and take my wife and daughter to the beach. The beach was not far from our accommodation, so we decided to walk instead of calling a vehicle. Walking helped us save money and gave us time to enjoy the streets and fresh morning air. The road near the beach had many trees, flowers, and beautiful views. My daughter walked excitedly, sometimes running ahead and then turning back to tell her mother and me to move faster. The moment she saw the sand and the sea, she forgot all about being tired and immediately ran forward. That was also the moment when I felt the trip had become truly meaningful. The beach was crowded that morning, but the water was cool and the waves were not too strong. My daughter wore a life jacket and happily played in the water while my wife and I watched her closely. After swimming, I helped collect the sandals, toys, towels, and other belongings. Before leaving the beach, I checked the area several times to make sure we had not forgotten anything. My wife helped our daughter rinse off the sand and change into clean clothes. As soon as she was dressed, our daughter immediately began asking when we would eat. After a morning of running and playing, everyone was hungry. I took my wife and daughter to an affordable restaurant nearby. We preferred a place with clearly displayed prices and familiar dishes suitable for a young child.
Không, bình thường giá không.
Cứ mì nha.
The meal was simple but warm and cheerful. We ate while talking about our morning at the beach. We laughed about who had been hit by the biggest wave and who had built the best sandcastle. For a working-class father like me, being able to sit down and enjoy a slow meal with my wife and daughter without watching the clock for my next work shift felt wonderful. After eating, we bought a small amount of salted egg sponge cake as gifts. It is a popular treat in Vung Tau, so my wife and I wanted to bring some home for our relatives. Even buying gifts required careful planning. If we bought every item that looked appealing, our travel money would disappear very quickly. We chose only a reasonable amount because the thought behind the gift mattered more than its price. Afterward, we returned to the accommodation to check our luggage and prepare for the afternoon schedule. When traveling with a child, every trip outside requires water, hats, spare clothes, tissues, and several other small items. Forgetting even one thing can cost additional time and money. In the afternoon, I took my wife and daughter by motorbike to a cafe near the sea. The distance was not far, so this was a convenient and affordable choice. My daughter sat behind us and happily watched the streets and scenery along the way. For a young child, even traveling along unfamiliar roads can feel like an exciting adventure. The cafe was located near the beach, with an open space and a view of the waves. We chose a simple table and ordered a few drinks while everyone rested. My daughter ate cake, drank her beverage, and continued playing. My wife and I finally had a little time to sit quietly, look at the sea, talk, and enjoy the slower pace of the trip. We did not order too many items. Each of us chose something simple and suitable for our budget. As I watched my daughter laughing, I realized that a meaningful vacation does not require spending a great deal of money. The most important thing is having new experiences together and giving genuine time to my family. The final day in Vung Tau arrived sooner than we expected. I took my wife and daughter to have a simple meal before beginning our journey home. After eating, I carried the luggage while my wife held our daughter's hand on the way to the ferry terminal. My daughter became excited when she saw the large boats by the water. It was her first time traveling by this kind of transport, so she was curious and asked questions about everything around her. When the ferry left the terminal, a cool breeze blew across the deck. I stood with my wife and daughter as we watched the water, the passing boats, and the city gradually disappearing behind us. The ferry journey was not very long, but it gave my daughter a completely new experience. When the ferry arrived, I pulled the luggage while my wife and daughter stayed close beside me as we walked through the busy streets. Everyone was tired after several days of activities. After that, we boarded another vehicle and began our journey home. My daughter was still excited and talked about her favorite parts of the trip. She remembered the swimming pool, the beach, the waves, the food, and especially the ferry ride. My wife and I also shared our favorite memories, so the stories seemed endless. After several days of playing, everyone was tired. Only a short while after the vehicle started moving, my daughter fell asleep. Our working-class family's journey to explore Vung Tau ended simply and happily. I could not give my family a luxurious hotel. We did not eat expensive food at every meal. We did not spend a large amount of money on shopping or entertainment. Instead, we shared cheerful meals, watched the sea together, laughed beside the swimming pool, enjoyed a new ferry ride, and created many precious family memories.